Yeah, and also some of those places, the average, well, you're not gonna do that unless you actually probably have a partner, right? unless unless you went through the whole 9 yards and got your college and bachelor's of science or whatever degree, right? That actually gives you a lot of right, the degree that actually gives you a lot of money. Not the fucking weird gender study bullshit or the art. I'm sorry, but art degrees it won't get you anything unless you're doing like video game and like very niche things, right?
All right.
But yeah, if I hate to say it, but if you don't have a degree that you can't be flexible with, well, you're fucked.
Society has reached a dangerous point when we can no longer take a joke. And we're already there. We've been there for a while. I mean, the past decade plus of culture wars pretty much
Oh yeah,
illustrates that.
you got race
Among other
wars,
avenues
culture
of
wars,
curtailing speech and
speech
invoking
wars.
cancel culture and using algorithms to bury people who are not socially acceptable. You've got famous A-list comedians complaining in the past several years and not just
Oh
in
yeah, you got
passing, that
activists,
the younger
right,
generation, people
from
on
the
college campuses, people brought up in the
actual
new
Hollywood
genre
motherfuckers.
of thinking in politics can no longer take a joke.
Kevin Hart. In 2019, he got the gig hosting the Oscars, and then he was fired because of old homophobic tweets and jokes that he did. Shane Gillis was fired from SNL due to podcast appearances in the past where he did ethnic voices and jokes. Again in 2019, Roseanne Barr fired from her sitcom reboot in 2019 after posting about a past Obama advisor. 2011, Gilbert Gottfried fired as the voice of the Aflac duck after making jokes about Japanese earthquakes and
People can't take a joke
Japanese
anymore,
earthquakes.
and the brunt of the joke
Make
is that
wait,
someone else gets to decide if it's
what? Wait, he made a joke about Japanese earthquakes and they canceled him? What the fuck? California has earthquakes. Like what? I'm confused.
funny. And they think it's somehow their responsibility to police speech and thought and what is
Yeah,
acceptable.
Yeah, it's so weird nowadays because ever since the whole influencer term was coined, right? From who was it coined? Was it politicians who coined the fucking? No, it was the news media outlets that coined the terms fucking influencers. Yeah. No, yeah, it was the news media outlets. and then politicians started, yeah. Yeah. Oh man, you guys got fucked. You guys are being used now.
And it's the authorizing that really gets to me. I mean, the best part of humor is that it's supposed to be unauthorized.
Yeah,
It's
comedians
supposed to
are
catch
being
you off guard. It's
used.
supposed to be rude and
Right.
flip your
Streamers are
preconceived
being
notions. It's
used.
supposed to
Anyone
invert the
doing
assumptions
fucking
and poke
content
fun at
creation
things that people
will
say
probably
are
get
sensitive.
used
And
in
when
some
you're
way,
dealing with the way they
shape or
frame
form.
things in society, the context of a joke is to poke the very spot that's too vulnerable to talk about, that you're not supposed to be
Yeah.
able to question. The emperor's new clothes, right? And in many ways, the more off limits, the more sensitive, the more untouchable certain topics are, especially when they relate directly to society itself and the world that we all live and deal in. The more you know that
Yeah.
something wrong is going
I
on
mean,
there.
the fact
You know,
that
1984 talked
they
a lot
coined
about shuttering of
influencers
thought,
for streamers and
deauthorizing certain
content
words, and
creators,
we
it's
are
kind of like,
living through that time. So it really creeped me out when I came across this movie from, I think,
right? Streamers don't like
1969, a Czech
being
movie called The Joke.
catch and stray sometimes, but it's like at this point,
a Chattanooga
You guys made your
movie
bed
by
with the whole
Jermel
fucking
Giles.
content creation
And this
sphere,
came close
right?
around the time of the
You guys are
1968
walking
Prague
billboards
Spring.
now.
Back in the day when I
And
did
they will
backpacking,
use you
we spent
because
some
you
time
guys
in
are like
Prague, and
journalists.
I learned a few things about this. It was talked about a lot. It was a big cultural impression in Prague that they had been through this Prague Spring.
I mean, right.
And a lot of it was about
I hate to
consciousness
say it,
and
but the
freedom of
government and
expression
the
against
news
the very
media
much
outlets will
authoritarian
use
regime that
anyone
were
they
under
can
at the time. We're
to
already there
fulfill
in many
their
ways,
needs and
and when
agenda.
it comes to some of the most important principles, the First Amendment and beyond,
If it means paying
freedom of
people
thought,
off
you know,
to
Melissa
promote
really got me thinking about
something,
this
hey,
with her last
so
video.
be it.
Even though in many ways the subject was centuries
That's
old
what
material,
streamers
in
and
England, it's
influencers
still
are
just as
for, eh?
relevant today. And it's a reminder that it wasn't just things that you could say and print and discuss in public, although there was that too, like not being allowed to use the names of people in parliament or name certain institutions or put the king's name in writing or
Yeah,
talk
I mean,
directly
just
about
look
the
at
king
how
or
they were
blame the
trying to
king.
like
There's
wipe
a
away the
huge difference
CEO
between
names because of all
the
the
American
right
Declaration of
Luigi
Independence
shit
and the Grand
and
Remonstrance.
some
in
other
that
cases
in the
of people
Declaration,
targeting
they directly
CEOs.
call out the king. They directly say, "This is the king's tyranny." De Quincey pointed out in his essay on the falsification of English history that the king was not allowed to ever be personally wrong, and people believed that. As God's representative on earth, it's not possible for him to be personally directly wrong.
You know, there was also
Yeah.
the issue of consciousness itself. Can you even conceive of the thought? Do people
I mean, that's why you have a lot of the, or I hate to say it, but the communistic diplomats, right? That's why there's no dissent. That's because they squash it immediately.
even know what they don't know?
That is a difference in
Like Xi,
consciousness that took
Putin,
place over
Zelensky,
that
they
time.
squash
Because
it
at the time of
immediately.
1641, no one
Right?
was directly calling out
Olaf
the king and
Scholz,
saying
right?
anything
Germany
at him.
motherfucker.
We had to move past that as people
Trudeau,
and recognize, like, okay,
squash it.
that's not right, though.
Immediately.
It's not right that the king
If
can't
it
be held
means
responsible
if it means
for his own
taking out some
behavior.
of your people
Are
and
people
sanctioning
able to
them,
discuss
debanking them,
other
whatever,
modes in
hey,
political systems? Because
fair game,
we're dealing in many ways with the kind of stuff that 1984 is talking about, the shuttering of thought, the shuttering of the ability to conceive of certain things, in part because certain words are off limits. And it's an authorization issue.
Oh,
It's an
yeah.
authoritarian
even
issue.
America
There's a
does
lot
it.
of words you could pull out of the bag for
Right, you see
regimes
with the
that are very
Democrats, they hate
controlling,
being called certain
despotic,
things, and then they try
dictatorial,
to
centralized,
and then they try to
bureaucratic,
cancel you
tyrannical, but
because you
authoritarian
call them
really
a
plays
fucking
into
bigot
that
in
root
front of their
etymology
face.
meaning of the word author. The idea that there's a narrative here. There are certain things
well, I mean,
that are subjectively
you can say it to
okay to say, and certain
Republicans
things that are
too, right?
subjectively not
Because
okay
I mean,
to
some
say.
of them are
Who
fucking
authorizes
bigots,
that, and why do individuals and why
fucking
do
lying
individual groups
shitheads.
in society not get to decide that for themselves? Why are there people who've asserted their authority to be able to decide whether or not certain words are authorized and could be used in society? I mean, obviously, this politically correct speech has gotten way out of hand. Identity.
I mean, when it comes with like national security and like national secrets, they they kind of have to like shut the fuck up, because it's bad. It's real bad if people found out what kind of fucking dark shit was going on. Like, people would be up in arms, right? It wouldn't be good. You'd literally have riots always, and then nothing would get done, right?
Politics.
Society
is bizarre.
would be at a halt because everyone's fucking rioting.
Identity is multifaceted, and
Well,
for some people,
that's not
shifting.
good.
We all wear types of masks, and we put on different hats in societies according to the little groups that we put ourselves in, which is sometimes situational, and some of it relates
the
to who we
cliques and
quote
shit.
think we really are. At any rate, the
Oh, yeah,
idea
putting
of
on the
imposing
facade.
identity politics and forcing other people to recognize.
Well, I mean, it's not
identity
even.
on-
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's I mean, in America, right? It's different, right? With the whole freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and you know, the whole Bill of Rights and the yada yada yada, right? So I mean, you're basically free to be a part of a society as long as you don't break the laws. Right? I mean, you're gonna have to survive somehow.
on your terms and not their own. It just feels like a terrible logical fallacy.
Yeah.
There's no institution in society less correct than politics. It's the most assuredly corrupt institution we have anything to deal with. And letting people loose, as we have in the last
Well,
decade.
I mean, when you have situations like what happened in the UK when they're not like investigating the whole grooming stuff, it's like, ew, right? It doesn't look good. At that point, the whole that society as a whole, it's like, what the fuck is happening? Right?
Plus, and this ill-begotten culture war that
I mean, you can see it with the Democrats with Trump, right? All the Democrats are basically crying that why the fuck did you guys elect Trump, right?
has distracted from the political dynamic, the power structure, the economic issues, you know. It's been a baby with the bathwater throwing out of our own rights as individuals when we're already so lopsidedly
exactly.
in a struggle for dignity.
Well, everybody's infighting, right? These motherfuckers are taking you for a ride, fucking you in the butthole. Literally siphoning money each and every day from you guys because you guys are infighting about stupid bullshit.
Dignity in our world. I mean,
the Hassans and Destinies of the
fucking each other to fight
content creators, the
slogans
space.
and flags.
Literally talk
and
about some of the stupidest shit.
Political brands and all this other culture.
No
politics,
real discussion,
identity politics,
other than to just vilify
and to get
each
people's
other.
eyes off of what is really going on. I mean, things have changed, and yet they're the same today, and there's new authoritarian powers. So it's not even really about the communism or socialism issue, but it's about this idea of authorizing. Who authorizes the narrative? Who okays the words that you can say? And who gets to cancel you if you say the words that you can't say?
Yeah, it's the government, if they ever so chose to. Or having a fucking angry mob
Anyway,
come
this
at you with
joke movie
pitchforks, right?
It's pretty
Literally.
interesting and pretty chilling. It's based on a novel, so I don't know how much is hypothetical. There's a lot of literary devices going on in the plot summary. But basically, things like this were happening at the time under a socialism and communism ideology in the Czech Republic, other parts of Eastern Europe.
I don't think people understand, like, in the old, like, real old days, people were more community oriented, right? You would have people walking the streets talking to each other, and everything was smaller too, right? And with all the, right, everything, all the infrastructure and everything, smaller, way smaller, right? There was much more sense of a community. But now, as everything's opened up and, right, and in the modern day, if you will, well, it's much more closed off in a sense because of all the bullshit that's going on.
Europe, Soviet Union,
with criminal
these things
activity
were going on, and they had to be spoken against. They had to be warned about.
The regime branded everyone it saw as opposed to its ideology as kulaks. These camps were set up all over Russia and were simply another of Stalin's killing machines.
Yeah.
Millions of people regarded as enemies of the state were worked to death in them.
And they really depict in this movie that there was a surge of idealism surrounding socialism and a youth movement that saw its own kind of renewal and its own self-empowerment.
Oh yeah. You can find a lot of these old documentaries, by the way, on the History Channel. Right? They still have old videos of World War II and what, right?
This political philosophy that was,
they still have those
at the
videos
time and being re-energized.
If you really wanted to look into
side,
right,
people are dancing and
to
singing
appear
and
into the culture of what was happening back then. Hey,
there's a
look.
re-education system. There's prison work camps. There's gulags going on, and this is happening factually, but it's also partially depicted in this movie.
Oh yeah, this is a movie.
And basically, you've got a guy who's a university student dating this girl.
Markéta byla jako duch doby. Naivní, radostná a přísná.
And she says something glowing about the social revolution and the wave of optimism in the streets.
Každý večer nás Pavel učí nové písně. Tady poznávám, co je síla optimismu. Jsem šťastná. Tvá Markéta.
And he writes back that optimism is the opiate of the masses.
Milá Markéto, optimismus je opium lidstva. Zdravý duch páchne blbostí. Ať žije Trocký.
And he sends her this card with this sort of cynical optimism is the opiate of the masses writing. He says something about Trotskyism, and they turn him in to the student council, who become a sort of committee in judgment, who move to kick him out of the student unions and the student committees, and then to remove him from the university.
Znáš nějakou Markétu Pospíšilovou? Samozřejmě, proč je to přece moje i vaše kolegyně. Píšeš si s ní? Píšu. A co si s ní píšeš? Nepamatuješ si, co jsi naposled psal? Co si myslíš o optimismu? Pro teba je optimismus opium lidstva. Proboha, jak jste na to přišli? Napísal si to, alebo nenapísal? Ale teď to bylo přece jenom tak z legrace. Tak tady jenom z legrace. Zajímavé. Z čeho si vlastně robíš legraci? Co ti expiruje? Optimismus. Strach.
And this guy has to go through the moment where he's sitting in a room and they've read what he's written on a postcard to the room.
I hate to say it, but this is kind of what the Democrats do a little bit. Even though it's just a movie.
And they've asked who's going to vote to kick this guy out of the university, and he has to watch as everyone puts their hands up.
Oh no, the Democrats! They fucking hate you. A majority
his
vote.
would-be girlfriend, his friends in the room.
Oh, you
people
got
who are his
fucked over
classmates,
by
his
your own
peers, his
girlfriend, bro.
contemporaries raise their hand and implicate him to be removed from the university just for
Oh,
writing the
shit.
words "optimism is the opiate of the masses" in a private letter. You know, that they dig up and sent to this committee and confronted him about. You know, it wasn't just being kicked out of the university. You know, he was pushed away from all the institutions of his city and his area at the time, and he was forced to join this military gulag. He wasn't sent there directly as punishment, but unofficially, that was his duty to go be prison labor worker in a mine under a sort of military unit.
Kriminálu. 3 roky v těch. 6 let.
And so naturally, the guy was very bitter about this. Years of his life were taken off, and he comes back later to confront the people who raised their hands in this classroom, the personal friends who implicated him and essentially testified against him and voted to ruin his life, to devastate people's lives on the basis of his speech, in this case, his written speech. You know, a private letter.
I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of like the whole premise of what 1984 was, right? Kind of the whole secret police
Optimism is the
policing
opiate of the
what you
masses.
say and
At
do.
worst, it's
and
like a cynical attitude, but also true. Like if you're going to have dancing in the
limiting
streets,
what you do.
rallies for, you know, the powers that are assumed under communism and socialism, then you need to also be able to face the criticism and dissent of its dark side. And it's this whole concept of re-education camps. And so that plays out. And it's a pretty interesting movie. I mean, it's a little dated It's a foreign movie, so some people won't like that. But it really highlights something that is going on today. You know, it is parallel to the last decade and a half. A lot of it's a new left, no longer people for peace and love and equality and a kindness of feeling, a sort of libertarian left.
The First Amendment didn't apply to any campuses in the country. You couldn't give a speech without getting it cleared by the administration.
When the student takeover of a campus building resulted in more than 800 arrests,
it just set off this explosion among the students, and people who had never had a political thought in their head just got fired by the idea that someone couldn't tell them when and where to say what they wanted to say.
And then a couple of days later, the faculty voted the university could not limit the content, make no regulations restricting the content of speech or advocacy, and at that point, we had won.
It's not those people. They're still there somewhere probably, but they've been overshadowed by a very much authoritarian left.
Several thousand students have gathered for what has been billed as a victory celebration. Speaker, the leader of the free speech movement, Mario Savio.
That there be no restrictions on the content of speech save those provided by the courts. And that's an enormous amount of freedom.
A left, I mean, this happens on the right too, but it's been very pronounced in the free speech realm and the writing realm under people who think they are following an idealistic, better system, but who are in fact demanding under great penalties that people conform and submit to an authoritarian control of the internet, of the campus culture, and of society in general, the things you're allowed to say. We've seen cancel culture take over. It's especially pronounced when celebrities, some people did do really bad things that are either criminal or borderline criminal, and other people got canceled for an ill comment, a joke that someone else couldn't take. Maybe the kind of statements that
I mean, just look at the UK. They're literally banning or taking you to the police over jokes. Well, they got fucking people pillaging their own country.
On November 9th, University of Missouri student journalist Tim Tye was.
You've had these protests on campus. I think one was University of Missouri or whatever.
On the University of Missouri campus.
And you've got the really vehemently vocal, angry person saying that they are shutting down free speech, that this campus zone is not a place where you can exercise your free speech, which has been the traditions of universities in this country and in this society.
Assistant professor at the school, Melissa Click, also appeared to try to prevent a videographer from documenting the scene, saying he didn't have a right to document the events.
Hi, media. Can I talk to you?
No, you need to get out. You need to get out.
You need to get out.
You need to get out.
I actually don't.
All right. Hey, who wants to help me get this reporter out of here? I need some muscle over here. You need to go.
You've got the comedians I mentioned, Seinfeld, Chappelle, others, showing how people can't take a joke anymore and showing how there's movements to cancel them and to ruin their careers.
They try to cancel Chappelle.
The more you say I can't say something, the more urgent it is for me to say it. And
yeah,
it has
exactly.
nothing to do with what you're saying I can't say. It has everything to do with my right, my freedom. This theater should be called
Theater for the Artistic Freedom and Expression. Yep.
I want that for myself, and I want it for every student that's educated at this school.
And
well, I mean, that's what comedy is supposed to be, right?
Movie about how one bad joke can ruin your life because people inform on you and kick you out. We had on the other day that show Hacks with the fictional comedian Deborah Vance, and there's an episode where they confront her. She's about to get a show and things are going to go great for her and her career, and then a clip surfaces and goes viral on the internet of jokes she made 30 and 40 years ago that were off color.
Love her. I guess someone made a supercut of all her shitty racist jokes. She sucks. So fucked up they're giving her an honorary degree.
That were subject matter that you can't just say today in politically correct culture. And then there was a wave to cancel this Deborah character on the basis not of things she said recently, but jokes that she made on a stage 30 and 40 years ago.
This is insane. Me, I am being taken down by a liberal mob.
I mean, you're not the only victim here.
Oh, really? Who's the other victim? Someone who was offended by easily offended now. If you don't like a joke, don't laugh.
She was to be held to account for that by young people at a college campus who weren't alive at the time, who can choose not to watch them
Well, I mean,
material if
it's
they want
Gen
to,
Z
but who
people.
nonetheless sat in judgment of her.
It's the
and were one
snowflakes.
step away from condemning her in the same manner as the character.
Literally,
from this movie, the
any
joke.
sort of criticism, they freak the fuck out. Like Hassan, Destiny. Any sort of criticism they get, they freak the fuck out. It's fucking hilarious. They're like little fucking man babies.
Had dyslexia, or as you called it, lystexia. Yeah, I just thought maybe you'd like to speak on that.
They had already canceled her appearance on campus. That was supposed to happen the day before, and now they were cancel culturing her in this weird tribunal of really young college students with no perspective on life who think it's their place to deauthorize someone else's speech, their comedic career, their jokes.
This isn't a public flogging. This is a dialogue for acknowledging harm and fostering empathy. Let's open up the floor. Would anyone like to share?
You know, again, she portrays basically an A-list comedian entertainer, and they canceled her ability to even speak on campus and pressured her into apologizing, basically just for saying things that aren't politically correct today.
You could just apologize. No. Deborah, the jokes weren't great. You wouldn't do them today.
No, you never apologize for a joke. I'm a comedian.
It was absurd, but it was also creepy and chilling. And this cancel culture has its corollaries in cancel culture, the COVID round, where you had people demanding that you take medical treatments, that wear masks, and stand 6 feet apart, and not interact with.
I mean, they just want you to transition now. They just want you to mutilate yourself and
certain people and not go to Thanksgiving. And I had some young kid who was like 18 when all that COVID stuff went down, yelling at me that I couldn't stand in a little square box next to Melissa while we were checking out at the grocery store. He attempted to make me stand 8 feet across from the checkout
do I
aisle
speak German?
because she was going to swipe the credit card after they had touched the
I'm
groceries
American.
and put them in bags, just because
What?
COVID was fresh.
do you not see the tags in the stream?
You know, there were authoritarian little, maybe not even college girls working in like the smoothie shop behind a plate glass window, wearing a mask, chewing me out because I didn't have a mask on. But they want me to do commerce there. They would like me to tip them, right? But they're also
do
gonna
I
stand in
sound German?
judgment of
Like,
other
what?
people in society and tell them how to behave.
These kids didn't
Don't do
understand
that.
that they were instruments of oppression. I didn't get mad at them. The kids, the freshmen, not ready yet.
In this context, what they're allowed to say, perhaps even in private letters or in stand-up comedy performances, where if you can't take a joke,
America
you
have
shouldn't
good
show up.
cocaine. I mean, so
Where
does
if you're too sensitive
Germany.
to laugh at controversial issues in society,
The cartel's
maybe you
up in
should
that shit,
stay
too.
home and watch a movie or something instead. I mean, I'm not always in the mood for stand-up comedy, but the last thing I'm going to do is stand in judgment
Oh,
of some
but
off-color
not
joke.
only
I mean,
that, but
a lot
the
of those
German
comedians try
government
to be
loves
revolting and
transitioning
offensive
people,
on
so you
purpose
can get
because
your
of
free
this,
cocaine
but
that way.
it's not even the point.
He thinks that if you're too funny, he might not look so funny.
The point is, this authoritarian mechanism is trying to deauthorize our ability to think for ourselves and exercise our personal rights and sovereignty. And they're trying to create an authorized narrative to drive and manage society and then the behavior of people within it on a
I'm from
completely
Austria.
arbitrary
Oh,
and
land of
subjective
getting
scale.
fucked
They're
up by
trying to
the
arbitrarily
emus,
control
and
what
by everything
words you
that's
could say, and it could change at any moment, and it often
that's,
does. And you're supposed to just go
venomous
along with
by
the ebb
nature,
and flow of the
and
unstated,
the
passive
drowning
aggressive
kangaroos
mood of the mobs and the political parties
Kangaroo
that
land.
basically corral them in our society. I mean, yeah, why don't we just not take a joke and throw the baby out with the bathwater and just watch our freedom of thought get shuttered? Watch as we lose the ability to even remember what these concepts were about. We're losing our history so quickly. So few people, relative to what's going on in society, are paying attention to
Austria
the
have
past
no
or
kangaroos?
attempting to
I'm pretty
learn
sure.
why we had these developments. What was at stake in our consciousness and society? What rights were we fighting for? And why were we
I
doing
mean, you
that?
guys are just an
The
island, so I don't know.
legislature of England Truthstream wrote the London Journal, it is the only power and the sole authority in England. The people have no voice over this supreme authority. To claim that they do is to speak of rebellion and of taking the government into their own hands. The power of the people extends only to the
Not only
constituent
that,
act of
but your prime
establishing the
minister is a
government.
fucking
The
retard.
government is settled, and the power of legislation given to a body chosen to represent the community. Then the original power of the people in their collective body ceases.
You're a
No, we'll just hand it
millionaire?
over to an
Good to know, I
optimism,
guess.
to an opiate of the masses feeling that somehow it would be better if we just didn't allow some people to say certain words because some other group, probably pretty arbitrary, they might get offended. And before you introduce these opposites in online forums and political discussions and half-made-up media events, were these groups even associating with each other? And when they did associate, was it really just individuals who didn't care about all that and at least probably tolerated each other? Was it really two groups who were in a standoff because the other group was going to use a word? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to shut down people's speech and destroy their lives? And try to
well, I
re-educate
mean,
people?
you
I think
already
not.
have
I hope
countries
not. I hope
trying
nobody
to
takes
put
that
a
kind of
lid
joke.
on Twitter and all these other countries.
Which is designed to solve
Like posts on news and whatnot.
If you saw the photograph
I
in
mean,
the Chronicle,
the prime minister of fucking what? Austria? Was it fucking Australia? Albanese or whatever his bitch name is. He tried to blacklist the church stabbing stuff. It's just like, yeah.
okay, you saw that the cop was pulling on his tie.
Yeah, all these fucking countries do it. All the politicians, everyone's trying to stop people from seeing news and make jokes about it.
What happens is that when he grabs your tie, it comes off.
Techno party in Vienna? What are you even talking about?
The shuttering of thought, the closing down of consciousness, the control of language, the denial of speech and of reach, the isolation of individuals, and the discouragement of free thinking, of thoughts.
I just feel like I don't have any thoughts like a human being. I'm just an animal walking around on the earth.
Electrodes can carry currents into the brain.
I couldn't even hear what the hell that said. What the fuck did that just say?
Denial of speech and of reach, the isolation of individuals, and the discouragement of free thinking, of thoughts.
I just feel like I don't have any thoughts like a human being. I'm just
It's just ending it.
walking around on the earth.
Electrodes can carry currents into the brain.
Neither will you be allowed to tell the truth. Understand the goal is not limited jokes. The goal is to limit truth. Targeting jokes is merely the stepping stone. Yeah, pretty much. Arkansas, Mark, you snatch and bell. Thanks for the follow. Remain cleared eye. Speech control is thought control. Utter is the last bastion of freedom, yeah. We could make jokes on Facebook. A person wrote back, no, I don't miss the bigoted, ableist, homophobic, transphobic, racist things people call jokes. Blank is in Austria? Huh?